been criticised by some other winemakers, "Oh, you make wine show wines." I'm like, "Well, I actually don't. I hate to tell you all, boys, I don't. I make
Yeah.
wines I like and I
Yeah.
want to drink, and sometimes they jag a trophy,
Yeah.
or they do well, and
That's
I
pure jealousy coming out of a
Yeah.
different state.
it is
Yeah.
it's the thing that they love to go, "Oh, you make them." It's like, "No, I make wine that I want to drink."
Yeah.
And so if you like it, great.
but
But
if you
ultimately,
don't,
don't. I'm not.
are you ready, Liz?
I think so. You've got no idea what you're in for, I don't think.
Brace yourself.
That's perfect. With on that note, let's begin.
Sure.
Okay. Hello.
Hello, Pete. How are you?
Great. How are you,
Awesome.
Liz? How are
Um,
you?
oh, look, yes, I'm getting there.
You getting there?
Yes.
We're very fortunate to have Liz Silkman here, who's still in my phone as Liz Jackson and probably will be until the end of time.
Excellent.
I think for a lot of people, you're still Liz Jackson, aren't you?
Even myself.
Yeah, there we go. So, um, we're really fortunate to have you on this week because I know it's been a massive week for you after a little announcement last week where you kind of
Yeah,
got a bit of a gong.
I did, which honestly, yeah, didn't see that coming,
You
but,
didn't?
I said to him, "No, not at all." I knew, obviously a couple of weeks, before the, announcement,
Yeah.
but, no, didn't ever see that one on the cards, so it's nice, and, I said, "I'm
Yeah,
not gonna
bloody cool.
gonna
So,
keep."
for those that have been under a rock and not paying any attention to the wine industry for the last little bit, last week Liz was named as Winemaker of the Year in the Halliday Guide, which is kind of the big boy
It
for
is the
everyone.
gong, right?
Yeah,
The gong.
I think, and you've been close before, right? You've been nominated when like in another comp in
Yes, in GT I was, yeah,
GT a few years ago.
when I was very young, so
When you
actually
we were all very young. But then the Hunter, the Legends Award, which is a big one as well for the
Yeah.
Hunter, you've won that 3 times.
have, yes, yeah,
Oh, good.
because my mum said, which you'll love your mum, the leveler, she goes, "Oh, did you nominate yourself for this one?" I was like, "No, actually, mum, I didn't," which is great.
Uh,
Yeah. You're
the,
right though. You can always rely on your parents to bring you down.
the
Oh,
funny thing that even if you're not in the wine game or if you just dabble in restaurants, so many people know about the holiday
Yeah.
book and the awards. And that's why I think I hold it in such high regard because you don't have to be a real hardcore whiny to recognize how important one, the guide is for our industry, but
Yep.
also it's the reach is so wide. It's amazing. So congratulations. How
oh,
cool.
thank you. Yeah, it's very cool.
Why do you think the reach is so wide with that particular um, entity? I suppose
Maybe because you don't nominate yourself, is that as
that's
much as that can say? Uh, but yeah, I guess that's how I see it, is that it's based on your wines. So it's not so much, I know, like with other awards, and I mean the legends for the hunter is amazing, but someone usually from your own company or your friend nominates you, then you have to fill in all your paperwork and talk yourself up, sort of thing. I'd like to say that I always employ someone to do that.
yes.
I'm always like, how much wine will it cost me for you to write my application? Uh, and then I did that once, and then this lovely lady, she did it in the third person, and I read it and went, "Oh wow,
Oh
I sound
shit.
like an absolute wanker." I had to change that around and get there. But yeah, I think with Halliday, it is the broad reach. It's the fact that people I went to school with who are not in the industry, go, "Oh wow, I saw this on the news," and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, it's good, yeah."
Yeah.
How good.
It's actually a bit of a big deal, which is wonderful. And I think it's also, I think that a lot of people don't understand that it is based on the wines that you submit for the guide, right? So basically, your wines are tasted,
Yep,
and then from that, there's
panel of people.
a panel of people that decide if they're any good. They'll rate the wines. Obviously, it used to be Halliday. James is, I think, 80 in his late 80s this year, I think.
Yeah,
And so it has handed over to sort of a younger group of people these days, which is sort of sharing the load because there's so many wines that need to be tasted. And then from those scores, basically the decision gets made as to who the winemaker of the year is, right?
yeah, That's how I understand it.
Well, that's
Yeah,
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 me too.
Michael.
So, yeah, let's run with that for the moment
Like it.
anyway.
I'm a
So,
chef. I'll run with you guys.
I, I think the most important question when an award like this gets given, the first thing I think of, and I think I was looking back at some text messages to you today. The first thing I sent to you, I think in 22 when you won the Winemaker of the Year for Hunter Legends, was what champagne did you drink? Which is obviously a very critical decision for you in particular. You do like some bubbles.
You like bubbles?
So what's the answer for this year?
Well, it was a bit of a rough week. I actually didn't get down to the awards. I had some crazy allergic reaction. So I didn't actually get to Melbourne. So on the night, I sat on the couch wallowing in my own self-pity. And then, but I have to say, yeah, it was Tattinger a couple of days later when I was
There we go.
much better. Um, yeah,
The classic Hunter champagne.
it is exactly. I know
It
it's
would have
really
looked gangster, but if you won the award, but you were sitting at home on the couch in
Yeah.
your jammies going, yeah, I just didn't go.
Just,
You know?
just punching a magnum of comp in your own. So.
Look, I was all good until I think Sayers and Wadowitz messaged, and then
Yeah.
I was taking myself to the bathroom for a little cry.
Yeah. But which is, I think that's a good thing though, because it means that it means something, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it did, and I think as I said, I never thought I'd be nominated or even win this thing ever. So the fact that I did was, yeah, it's really has really sort of. I don't know. I have no words for it. I know that sounds silly, but it's this really weird feeling of going, "Wow, okay, sure."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think that one of the things, I think in hospitality in general, when awards are given at different things, some of them are taken more seriously than others, like the
Yeah.
actual results. As I said,
Right.
I think with Halliday, it's a big one where people do take notice of those awards.
Yeah.
But it's also, I think when it comes to winning those kind of things, and particularly for restaurants, all it does is increase the pressure a little bit,
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
Because now all eyes are on you. It's like, well, how good are you then? What kind of wine did you make?
Yeah.
I always feel like people are going, "Oh, that really bad wine you made 23 years ago and you
Yeah.
put it out. I'm gonna bring that out and, hold that."
Yeah. Yeah. Winemaker of the year, hey?
Really. This is the best you can do.
Yeah, just
Like,
23 years later.
yeah.
Speaking of 23 years later, when you first got into it, was the
Mm.
plan always to make wine?
No, so I did a science degree at Newcastle Uni when I left school, and then pretty sure my parents were looking at me going, "Okay, so we've paid for 4 years of uni. What are you, what are you going to do with this thing?"
Mm,
And I ended up, and for a long time it was the accidental winemaker sort of followed me around this little term, and I think it was because I just ended up landing at Brokenwood, which has always had the old adage that they make winemakers as well as wine. So if you look at the people who go through there, you sort of go, yeah, okay.
it's pretty serious alumni,
Yeah.
and I encourage anyone to have a look at that one day. I remember, I think we might have spoken about this, but at one stage I was thinking about doing a dinner with Brokenwood alumni, and it's like you'd need to do 10.
Like it's a crazy thing, and it's really a testament to Brokenwood and that ethos that they live by. Like
Yeah.
it's they really do. So yeah, I went there as a laboratory technician. Uh, Sucked terribly at it. I really did. I was a bad lab.
Really?
Well, yeah.
How are you a bad lab tech?
Well, I didn't want to be there. I realized that the fun part of it was out in the winery. So it was sort of like, oh, I wonder what number PJ might want. I'll just sort of make it up. Like, and,
Yeah.
do that.
I'm
I
sure
say
he
to
appreciates that.
exactly. I say to my staff now, whatever you do, just don't lie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't do what I did.
Exactly. Yeah.
Isn't it funny when you've been around a bit and you know all the tricks of the
All my
trade?
tricks. Absolutely.
Stock take day in our restaurant. So I go,
Yeah.
just whatever you're thinking, I've done it.
Yeah.
And I
Don't.
can see through it. So do yourself and me a favor and just don't do that, please.
Just don't do
And
that.
they just look at you, go, oh, I don't know what you're talking about.
You're like, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Um,
So no, I didn't really ever think I would be one. But then I really wanted it. And so yeah, I used to do my winery work in the day and lab work in the afternoon and that sort of thing. And yeah, and sort of got to a point where I realized you can call it a glass ceiling, I guess, but without the winemaking degree,
yeah.
it's not really going to go much further. So
Yeah.
yeah, I did that in Adelaide.
Yeah.
which
And you
was fun.
never look back, like you still love it today as what you did all
Yeah,
the way back
still
then?
love it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, don't love the paper pushing side of
Yeah,
my
sure.
job now.
Yep.
I think, the further you go up, I spend a lot more time pushing paper.
Yep.
But the part of where, you take grapes and you make a wine, that was,
Create. Yeah, how cool.
I had that conversation with someone recently. It's like when you get to a certain point in your career, it becomes more about small boxes on a screen than boxes full of wine. The
100%.
Excel is such a critical tool. I think
Yeah.
across the industry, it's just like I never started in the industry to use Excel.
Me either. I never
Yeah.
thought that would be my
I'm bloody glad I did though, pick it up early because
I'm
it's
really good at it, though.
there
My
we
job,
go.
I love a good spreadsheet now
Do
because
you?
I can.
Are you a macro girl? Are you getting into that kind of realm, or where are you at with your Excel?
No, it's just more. Well, when I first went to First Creek, I joked the previous winemaker had a spreadsheet for when he went to the bathroom. And because I look back through people's computers, you're like, wow, you did. And now yeah, it's everything. I love
You get it?
Excel. I get it because it keeps me sane. I
Yeah.
go, you can't keep it all in your head. So the idea that it's in a sheet that I can,
I,
control.
I think it's also that live and dying by the data. The data doesn't lie. They're just numbers. So, and from that scientific background, particularly when it comes to winemaking, it is really, and winemaking, I mean, even at Adelaide, you would have breezed through some of those science courses, right?
Yeah, they were.
Be-
They didn't. I joked that I could then see how mature age students. I hated them in my first degree. They sat at the front of the lecture hall. And,
Everyone does.
and then I felt maybe I became one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what every mature age student
Yeah.
realizes at some point, like, shit, I'm,
Yeah,
I'm,
I'm that.
I'm now that person.
I'm that person. Yeah. So
It's not a bad thing though. And then, as you said, so started at First Creek. Obviously, there's some bits and pieces in between there. So from Broken Wood, you went to Tempest 2.
I did. Yes, I
Yep.
went overseas and then came back. I sort of went to America and New Zealand, and then came back to Tempest too. When I was in New Zealand, SK rang to come back to
Yep.
Tempest. Yeah,
Where were you? Would you be working in New Zealand?
was yes. Yeah,
Whereabouts?
Morton Estate. Uh,
Morton.
yeah, Morton. So near Napier there.
Okay.
And I wanted to go. The reason I picked those guys, well, there was a winemaker in the Hunter. It's always this way, knew someone.
Know someone. Yep.
Yeah. But I wanted to do a big winery. I wanted to go and see, Broken Wood isn't that big, really.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go and see what the bigger guys looked like.
Yeah.
It wasn't huge, but it just had a different feel to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I loved it. It was. I realised possums were not cute. That
Not
we
over there.
ugly things. So
We'll have
Pictures.
RSPCA on the on the
I'm sorry.
on the boat. It's all right. I pissed off all of McLaren Vale last week, so it's like it just happens. So
Should I tell you that I bought possum gloves, scarf, hat?
yeah,
Oh, still
How-
love it.
the possum socks are the greatest thing ever.
They're the warmest things you'll ever
The
wear in your life.
pelt.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. You don't
They're
actually put your
It's
possum.
like
You don't
wearing
put
a,
your foot into a
it's
possum.
like wearing a rodent.
Yeah, it's exactly like wearing a rodent. Yeah, but probably
a really
warmer.
warm one.
It's
Fairly yuck, but I'm down.
it's a little
I'm
yuck,
down.
but I was given a pair.
We're
And it
talking
was-
about hunting before, Corey.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Go, mate, go
We'll
hunt
be wearing
some
pelts next week.
just
Possum
possum suits. Probably not for the Sunshine Coast, maybe for other parts of Australia or I don't know, Alaska or something like that. But the possum socks, if anyone ever needs to stay warm,
Oh,
possum socks. Skiing, greatest socks on earth.
Bellingham.
Yeah, because they're not thick.
Yeah, right.
They're just fucking hot. But they're almost too hot though. Like I get to a point in the day if I'm wearing them, I'm like, oh, I might need to
Probably the fucking syphilis they're giving your toes, mate. That's probably what they are.
it's not a koala, it's a possum.
Jesus Christ.
What is it? Not all animals have some kind of sexually transmitted disease. God, this has taken a turn.
Hasn't it? Reset.
We might have to cut that out, Corey.
love
Yeah.
possum.
Yeah, mind you, yeah, Corey's actually just gone. That's perfect. We'll use that as the sound grab. So, but they are something. They are something else. Okay, so then you come back over to the Hunter,
Yes.
and that's your first like official winemaking gig at Tempest 2.
First official assistant it was
Yeah.
with Sarah Kate, Deneen, and Lisa, and at the time they were building. So when I first got back, there was no winery. The winery was being built for Tempest too, which was an amazing experience. Like that
Yeah.
was really to see all that come to fruition.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a great time. It was pretty cool.
And then from there to
To first
Silkman,
grade.
to First Creek, sorry, to First
Yeah.
Creek. So for those of you that don't know, First Creek is the biggest bottling facility in the Hunter.
Yes.
Yeah. And runs 24/7.
24/7. Look, some days I feel yes, at certain times of the year it does.
Yeah.
It 24/7. Yeah.
And so as a percentage of wine made in the Hunter Valley, how much goes through, you don't have to be, this is a rough guess, how much goes through First Creek to be bottled?
Yeah, I think we sit at about between 85 and 90% of the valley
Wow.
bottled with us. On volume, it's
It's
different.
Crazy. Huh?
Just hang on, you can't just gloss over that. That is such a number.
I think I'm pretty sure it's like it's in that 80s and
Well,
Again,
top of
someone will
literage is
tell us anyway.
yeah,
That's
it'll be the other people.
yeah, exactly. So TK was just asking how many liters is that roughly, or do you, yeah,
So we will do about 1 million cases a year is the bottling for us.
is that all?
That's amazing, isn't it? It's hard to fathom that much wine.
Oh, and when you go there, I mean, one of the things about going to First Creek is that if you get to look at the bottling line, it is an impressive bit of kit. Like
Yeah.
it is state of the art. Yeah, it's just. I mean, I don't even want to know what the numbers are of what the capex to filling that form out. What would you like? I like one of these. It's $73 million. But it's like those things. I think a lot of people don't see that side of the business where it's just it's just making wine. It's fun, da da da, and then you see it being bottled in that kind of numbers, and it's just it
And I
turns.
always say it's the really pointy end of the stick bottling. I always think you can make a few errors in that grape period and juice period, and I think what I say to our guys is that bottling is the really pointy end. There is no room for error. You
Yeah.
make a mistake with someone's wine going into bottle, and that's a forever mistake.
That's a
Just
good point. What are the
uh,
things? What can happen? Obviously, this never happens for those people that are using First Creek, but
yeah.
hypothetically,
But it's a year of your life as well that you put
what's the
life
thing?
through it,
Like
right?
someone spent a year growing these grapes,
Yeah.
making the wine, then giving it to these guys, and then
Yeah.
what can
Whoops.
go? Yeah, what can go wrong?
Things can go wrong. Bottling wise, we always make sure people tick the right. It's simple. Like you want people to tick the right bottle that they want, and sometimes that can just be a code. And someone goes, "Oh, I thought that code was this," or so we run a pretty big team of people that just make sure all the dry goods are right.
Yeah.
You can always scrape a label, but you can't really take a cap off, and you can't
No.
change a bottle.
Mm.
From that side of it. From the wine intake side, we're pretty foolproof in a way.
Yep.
We've stopped using water because that's probably your scariest point that you might put water in someone's wine.
Yep.
We use gas and all of that just to unload them, so take out that risk that something could happen.
Yep.
Um, yeah, look, it's more getting everybody's dry goods and everything ready to go, and then
Yeah.
another thing is sometimes it's like herding cats.
Yeah.
I know myself. Us winemakers, I like to say we're a breed. Like we are, sometimes our brains don't work like my husband Sean, who runs our business. He just doesn't understand. He's like, "But you said you'd have it ready by this date," and I'm like, "Oh, I know, but maybe I didn't." And like,
But it's not.
Now you can go, hey, do you know who you're speaking to? I'm the winemaker of the year.
Yeah.
So
And actually, there's something I do want to bring up because, and you'll find this funny, TK. And we had Julian Grounds on recently, and he during during our chat with him, he managed to mention that he was ducks
Duxed.
of
what,
Roseworthy
was he really as well?
as well, and ducks of the LET. So
Yeah.
you share that with Julian in terms of the duxing situation. He mentioned it way more than
yeah.
he should have, though.
So when we ripped the piss out of him every chance we got as well.
It's
I love
just.
it.
I don't think he intended to, but we never didn't let him hang it. Like we didn't let
No.
it go either.
It's one of those. Do you know that I'm the ducks?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
we're like, I'm
Yeah.
not a ducks, but
I was like, I got invited to go. Clearly, there's probably some regrets about that. But anyway, but I want to talk about the tutorial for a minute because we actually didn't talk about it with Julian too much. But because he was being annoying about it. But sorry, Jules. For those that don't know, there's an amazing tutorial wine school, for lack of a better phrase, that happens every year in the Hunter Valley. Started by the late great Len Evans. It is called the Len Evans Tutorial, and 12 scholars get selected from all over Australia, and we have had a couple of internationals in the past as well, to basically look at the great wines of the world and really benchmark the great wines of the world against each other. And the idea behind it is about improving the breed and the show judging system in Australia, getting people up to speed with really looking at these great wines and knowing what to look for when it comes to perfect wines or great wines, whatever it may be. And I was fortunate enough to do it, and it is still will, and I think it will be, anyone that gets to do it, it's probably the greatest wine week of their life. Not just about the wines. Like, my big takeaway was the people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so privileged to be able to go through that with some great people. But there's something about the tutorial that infects the hunter in a good way. And there's
Yeah.
this camaraderie around the tutorial where everyone jumps in, the pourers come in. So all of the winemakers from all over the valley will donate their time, pour these great wines, get to look at these great wines, and help these people coming up through the industry. Some of them have been in the industry for 30 years, though, but they get to go along and they just have such a great time. What are your thoughts about the tutorial in general? I mean, I probably talked too long there
Oh,
myself, but
I I think I've loved the tute. I've been really privileged. I was one of the first pourers, so when it first started, and I think I was the youngest of them all, so I washed all the glassware and used to transport
that's a
all the
lot of it's a lot of glasses.
nuts. But it was, I agree with you, it's a week I'll never forget. I can still remember the fear of it. I remember the first time applying for it, and at the time, Mr. Evans was a consultant for people I was making wine for. And I'd applied, this little 20-something-year-old, and I was so, and he goes, "You're not ready." I was like, I could have cried on the spot. Like, he was just so
Yeah.
like, boom. And I was like, "Oh, I know, but, Sarah Kate told me I had to, apply," and all the rest of it. And the following year, I was really lucky to get in. And
On your
uh,
second try?
yeah, it was a while ago. I
Oh,
was,
I hate you so much. I got the good thing, I got to experience that 3 times from Rigsy. It was fantastic.
yeah,
Yeah,
just that little bit of cutting, just to keep you.
it's good. Just cuts you back down quickly. It's nice.
But yeah, I love the week. I loved the week when I did it myself. Obviously, that's a week that, you just don't ever forget. I mean, I'm like Dory the fish sometimes with wines, but I can tell you those wines better than I can, what I drank last week or something.
Yeah,
So I think that what I loved probably was the stories that came from like Halliday and Riggs and, Macker and all those guys. Like,
yeah,
they were the ones that probably blew me away.
yeah,
I love those. I love the fact that you could still see that they loved it. They
yeah,
were still so passionate about the wines they were seeing. And yeah, it's a week that you just, I don't know, I feel like I didn't breathe the whole week
yeah,
because you were going, "Oh my look, what am I doing?" And I think being the hunter scholar, like, there's a lot of pressure, like, a
I would agree 100%.
lot of pressure in the room,
Yeah.
especially probably one of the younger ones at the time. I made a very famous mistake one night, that Riggs loves to tell, that it was, let's be honest, it was '05 Le Montrachet DRC, and I said it was a New World producer trying to make an Old World style.
Oh gosh.
And
Okay,
I
so
don't think I'd finished that sentence before Mike Julius, who was sitting beside me, literally leapt out of his chair and ran out the back just to tell them all that's what I'd said. And I'm like, "Oh my God."
Jesus. And just to again put a little a bow on that. So the wine that Liz was just referring to is probably the hardest wine to get.
Yes.
Certainly,
Mm.
even within DRC, the Le Montrachet is the hardest wine in the lineup. So, Domaine de la Romanée-Conti, an incredible wine producer from Burgundy, and the Le Montrachet vineyard is just impossible to get. And so, when you taste it, you basically drinking unicorn anyway. So,
I
yeah,
bagged it. Not bagged it. I just thought I'd have it, like it was
Jesus.
terrible.
Yeah, a Pinot.
Well, yeah, exactly. The thing is, though, everyone does it, though. Everyone does it at some point in time across the week. Someone will shit the bed. I might have done it all week. I don't even know. So,
So, yeah. But when you're in the hunter, everyone just loves to remember it.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm
Yeah,
sure
I'm
no
sure.
one is going to let you forget that at all. Um,
No.
how many women were in the year that you went through?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, wow. 3 that I can remember. Please don't
Okay.
ask me to
No, that's okay. I won't. I was going to say, because you mentioned glass ceiling before, and like for you, and I'm not bringing this up frivolously or, but the wine industry is heavily dominant with men. Simple. That's just a fact.
It's a fact.
Um,
Yeah, exactly.
that those numbers, everyone's talking about them. Those numbers are changing, but they're changing very, very slowly, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Very.
think that there's a lot of people sort of in the industry that get pretty excited and, we're doing a great job and everything else and we're supporting women. And some people are, of course, but
Oh, yeah, for sure.
there's still a lot to go, right? Still a lot of room to move.
I think there is. Yes. Yeah, I do. I mean, it's so much better than when I first started. Like, I think,
In what way?
uh, certain behaviors are no longer acceptable at all.
Yeah.
But I think society probably has
Yeah.
changed a bit as well in that time.
Yeah.
Like I think back when I first started, let's just say I had to clean up the bathroom at the back of Brokenwood because it was just all boys. So I was one
Right.
of the first. And it's interesting magazines that I moved, you know,
Picture books.
books. I, packaged them all up and I put those in the male bathroom for the boys and,
Yeah.
did that sort of thing. So I look, that sort of thing, I don't think would really ever, things have changed. But yeah, I just hope we don't ever take our foot off the accelerator to say, oh, okay, things are better and we're all done,
Yeah.
because it's a very slippery slope to go backwards.
Yeah.
Is how
I think that's a really good point. And I said, I think there's, every now and then some backslapping goes on. It's like, I think we're probably a little bit premature with that. I don't think we're quite there yet. So,
yeah, exactly.
um, but that you worked, obviously you mentioned SK, who is an absolute rock star, SK Deneen, who's over in Central Otago now with Maud. Amazing brand, great wines, great people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the great thing about SK as well is that she's so shy and retiring and, you know, sorry, I just want to see your face when I said that. So that's good. That worked out real well.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's her. That's so the words I'd use to describe her.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, there's probably plenty of stories there that we won't talk about. Not for any particular reason at all. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about was the difference. So when you moved to First Creek,
Yep.
and so were you dating Sean at the time, or did that come after?
No, I was dating.
You were.
Yeah. Red
Okay.
flags, people. Don't go work for you. No, joking. Please.
That'll be it. That'll be in for sure. We're gonna highlight that. There'll be like words all over the screen. Okay, so Sean's family owns the business.
They do. Yes. Oh,
You
they own part. There's other shareholders in First Creek. So
right, but you go in to interview with them for a winemaking role.
yep.
Talk me through that feeling. And I'm just going to have a glass. We're just whilst you think about what to say there, we're just going to point out we're drinking the Silkman Sem 2019 this evening, just for a bit of fun. Sorry,
Yes,
tasting. I'll rephrase that. Tasting. It sounds better.
really going to have to find my words. So at the time, I was working for Tempest. There was a few changes. Lisa was leaving, and I think businesses have the right to change. But at the time, I loved what Lisa did,
Yep.
and change wasn't really going to work for me. So I jumped ship. I jumped ship with the thought that working in the family business would be easier when I had children and a family. And yeah, that was the thought process at the time. probably didn't come to fruition in such a way, can I say? I think, family businesses are really hard. Family wine businesses are really hard.
Do you think harder?
Yeah, I do. I think family wine businesses when you're the daughter-in-law, even harder. So, and
For
it's
them
not,
or you?
yeah, both are. The hot-headed Liz Jackson can sometimes they would be fun. Um, but yeah, look, it was a decision. I at the time it was to maybe have more flexibility when it came to having a family,
Yep.
working for the bigger. Um, like by that time, Brian McGuigan, who I love dearly, he'd left, that business, and so yeah, it's just a change that it
Just
was
time.
time. It was time for Lizzie to go.
I think, like restaurants, TK as well, like winemaking has that peak and trough like across the year, right? And there's that time where everything's just sort of trucking along. It's okay. Grapes are growing or not. They're just sitting there in the ground doing their thing, and you're bottling and doing other bits and pieces and hitting the road and taking wines around. But then service comes, which is vintage, and it's hard and long, and it's like, I think it was from the way to describe it for people is that it's that thing that just doesn't go away for sort of 4 months a year.
Yeah, it's really unfamily. It's family unfriendly
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
some.
I
Um,
was,
Because I've only ever seen vineyards in one of both of those scenarios where I remember going just through the Brossa or through the Napa, and you're there tasting wine with a few other tourists, and it's like, the birds are chirping,
yeah,
and
it's so
the
lovely.
the guys are pouring wine. You sit back and you go, wouldn't it be fantastic to own a vineyard?
yeah,
And then I went to the Barossa during
in
vintage
vintage.
one
Yeah.
year, and I'm like, fuck this. It is
Yeah,
a madhouse.
Yeah.
Every single vineyard is the same.
Yeah.
Like, it's mental.
Yeah.
And it's like all hands on deck, and the show is lit up.
And that's
And
when the Tanunda pub opens at 8 a.m. for the guys coming off night shifts. So they can go straight into beers.
like, and it nearly gave me anxiety. It reminds me of that horrible Friday and Saturday night service that
Yeah.
you've done as well. It's like that for the
It
entire
just doesn't
vintage.
stop. Yeah.
It's like when the
Yeah.
hammer falls, it's game on.
Yeah. And there's always something, right? It
always.
doesn't, there's
Yeah.
always something. Like you said, you've got, so obviously First Creek was the priority for you guys. And then you started mucking around on the side, right? With a little brand
Exactly.
called Silkman, which
Yeah.
has turned into a bit of a behemoth in terms of quality as well, which is very good.
Yeah.
This isn't yummy, by the way.
It's delicious.
What I love about this one, I'm just going to talk about this quickly, is that Semillon for me, and I talk about this, I've talked about this to people all the time, and PJ will tell you this, and Chrissy in particular. When I first met both of them, I was like, I fucking hate Semillon. I'm not interested. I'm not into it. Like, I just don't. And I think that there's a lot of people out there in a similar boat,
It is.
and
Yeah.
and we're all idiots because we just need to get on board with this and spending a lot more time in the hunter, spending time with particularly Chrissy and Peach, and then doing the tutorial. It all of a sudden it's like, okay, now it's part of me. I have to like this. But my thing with Semillon is that it's 3 phases in its life. There's that young, fresh, crisp lemon on your fish and chips at the
Yeah.
beach kind of style.
Razory.
Yeah, raise it in a good way.
Yeah.
When you're having the fish and chips.
Yeah.
And then there's the super old, like textural, getting into that sort of orange marmalade, ridiculous, like beautifully intense and unique wines to Australia. And then there's this middle period where I describe them as awkward teenagers, and it starts happening about 5 or 6 years old, where they're sort of hanging on to their youth, but they're also trying to be an adult. And so they're trying to show you those developed sort of characters they're just there, but that brightness and that acidity is never going to go away.
No.
So they've still got that line and drive. And I love it at that sort of 5 or 6 year old mark, 7, 8 years, where it just starts going, hey, remember me? It's just that little bit of toast starts to come through. And I just think that the versatility of that as a grape variety is second to none. It's also, I remember judging in the Hunter at the wine show one year, Liz, I think you might have been there, Sarah Ahmed was out from the UK,
Yeah.
and there was quite a racket one night, talking about what Australia has done for the wine industry and what what's ours, what grape variety we own. And I think there was a couple of people were talking about other varieties, and Sarah was like, "It has to be Semillon.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're the only ones that do it like this. It's like this is unique."
If I have foodies over from the US who love wine, the one thing that they essentially want to drink is Shiraz from the Barossa. But
Yep.
I also love going out for dinner and pouring Semillon from the
Yeah,
valley.
yeah.
And I've always loved Semillon, but it's exactly what you said. It's hard to find somebody who wants to drink it with you because they're all like, oh, and it's probably because they've had really shit Semillon, because that is fucking delicious.
That's really good.
Yeah, it really is.
That's really
So
fun.
I think everyone's maybe have had a horror story. These people maybe have a horror story with Semillon,
And
and
that's what they
they're a
remember.
bit scared of it.
But it's, I mean, Christ, I've had more horror stories with other varieties that
Me
are
too.
way more popular.
I find that so approachable and delicious. It could go, my head goes straight away for food, and there's 1,000 things you could.
What, like what?
Oh, geez, any type of oyster. I wouldn't be even just natural oysters.
Yep.
Barbecued fish, I reckon, would go really nicely with it.
Yep.
So it's just endless. I think it's such a great varietal.
There's
and I've always enjoyed it.
There is definitely a versatility there that I think we tend to sort of forget about. But
and I love how the wine changes so dramatically from its
year on
infancy
year,
to really, you get a real nice old one. It's chalk and cheese.
I think one of my first experiences with Semillon was a 25, 30-year-old Elizabeth from McWilliams. We stole out of my best mate's dad's cellar one day. Sorry, Nigel. But we went to a restaurant. We would have been 18 or 19 years old. These two idiots. We knew nothing about wine. And we took this bottle and it was just like, what is happening right now? It's just like, I don't understand. I didn't understand a thing that was going on in the glass.
Yeah. Right.
All I knew that it was delicious, but then I kind of forgot about it and then started to hate it for some reason. And then it took me a full immersion into the Hunter in particular, particularly with Sem, to understand it, I think, and understand where it can sit and how important it is in the scheme of things from an Australian wine perspective. I think we're remiss of us to sort of forget it. I was working on a wine list today and sort of said to someone that I was working with, I was like, oh, we need to put a couple of things in here in this Semillon category. He's like, well, we're going to have a Semillon category in the list. And I'm like, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's 3 wines. Let's not get
You're excited.
yeah. But the thing is, though, like, and there's something about Queensland. Queensland's never really drunk right in terms of numbers. Would you agree with that? We were always a little bit behind when it comes to Semillon.
Oh, I think you're better than like Melbourne, and
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We would probably see more Sem go Queensland way than we would, south.
Oh, so it was just me.
No, I said I do think though that there was a period of Semillon probably in those early 2000s where they were being made so lean and so undrinkable in a way early.
Because they were so hard of acid and full of acid and not much texture and weight. Yeah.
People weren't, there was no conversation when I first started about, texture of Semillon. It was just about the acid line. It was about, there was never a conversation about phenolics. And phenolics are actually, in my opinion, really important in Semillon, like that texture phenolic backbone that you can get. So there has been a bit of a shift, like if you look at, the style. And I think that's definitely, hopefully going to help with people drinking it and seeing it. Like,
Fried chicken.
What's that?
Fried chicken.
Absolutely.
Even KFC.
100%. Murder a bucket of KFC with that.
I'm sitting here, you're talking, I'm like, wouldn't that be really good? I'd love to do that. We've got to do that.
Corey.
Yeah.
Can you get on Uber? I was going to say, can you get on Uber Eats right now? Just get a bucket, family bucket, and have some fun. 32p. So are you having some too? I think I waylaid there for a second. I want to talk about that wine, but I do get excited because I haven't seen that wine for a little while, and then you have it again, you're like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
With family out from Canada last Christmas, and went down to the beach. Old bottle of Tyrrell's, not super old, like maybe 10 years old or something like that. And they were just like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, good.
And it's like, yeah, exactly.
It's a good party trick, but because as
totally.
said, like a lot of people go, oh, I don't like Semillon. Put it in their glass before they know what it is.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many people react like that.
It's also probably similar to the ABC crowd, what will you drink? Anything but Chardonnay. And then you give them a great Chardonnay and they're like, oh, that's delicious. What's that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
You mean I'm not chewing on an oak chip?
Yeah.
You know, it
And
doesn't
that's,
need to be like that.
again, historically, we've had some issues with that. But Chardonnay's you're kind of like I'm not going to go out here and say the queen of Chardonnay, but you're definitely up there, Liz.
I like Chardonnay. I think
Yeah.
that's the thing.
But you've also made
drink
some
it. I
fucking
like it.
rippers. You've made some great Chardonnays.
Yeah, I think it's what you love to make and what you
Yeah.
love to drink. People say, "Why do you do that?" And it's like, well, I just drink Chardonnay. Like, there's not much else in our house. Like,
Really?
no, we just drink a lot of Chardonnay.
I'm the same. Yeah. Anyone that comes over my house sticks their head in the cellar and goes, Chardonnay, obviously. You like your Chardonnay? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
You don't have walls of Marlborough Savvy in there, mate? But
the wrong dude.
They're hidden.
Yeah.
You just got to walk off that plank over there and you can get one.
Yeah, fuck off my house.
Exactly. There's a bottle shop around the corner.
Yeah,
but and what is it about Chardonnay for you? What do you love about it so much? As a consumer, not as a maker, as someone who drinks it.
As a consumer, that it can be so many things. I think that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
It's just everybody can do their own, like the winemaking side is everyone can do their own style. And as a consumer, I can pick Chardonnay, that's so different. Like, you might have one on Monday, from Tassie, and then you've got another one from WA, and they're so different. I just think and to me, that's fascinating that you can have something. I mean, I like interesting Chardonnays. I'm not a great believer in the unwooded, unoaked style. But I have a story where Mr. Evans said to me once, I said to him, "Oh, we have to make an unoaked Chardonnay." Mr. Evans, he's like, "No, there's no such thing." I'm like, "No, me in my youth, when you know everything." I'm like, "No, Mr. Evans, it's when we're not going to add any oak."
Yeah, he knew what you meant.
Exactly. There was a lot of eye rolling, I reckon.
Yeah.
But his point was, there is no such thing as Chardonnay without oak. Like oak, hide in Chardonnay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the 90s didn't say that though when it came to sales in this country.
Yeah.
No. Oh, exactly. So
Jesus. God, those brands, Chapel Hill Unwooded, Goundry, Salitage. They were so massive, those wines.
Weren't they?
No.
I'm glad you didn't do that. That's good.
Exactly.
What about, so from a making point of view, is it the same thing? Is that what gets your buzz going when it comes to making Chardonnay? Is it that you can take it so many different ways?
That you can we make Chardis really simply, so it just goes into oak and it stays in there. And probably my favourite, week of the year is blending, when you get to just see how they can all fit in with each other, and see how they all just come together. I think that's the fascinating part, and they're all different. Like, and it's that's a really cool experience. It just sort of they show their personalities. Some are better than others.
It's like kids. I don't have favourites, but sometimes I do.
Sometimes,
I've got one, and sometimes he's not even my favourite. So I've probably told that before. Actually, hey mate, love you. I was going to ask. You said something there about they've all got their own little personalities, and then you're getting to the blending table, and you're sitting there, and you've got 30 Chardonnays in front of you.
Yeah.
To me, that is one of the most important skills of a winemaker. I think the ability to be able to sit there and look at these 30 wines that have all got something different going on and go, okay, I'm going to do this, and this in this order. And it's like cooking a dish where you've gone out. So Liz goes out and gets 20 of the best Chardonnays she can made from different plots, whatever it may be. You go out and get the best fish you can. You go get the best butter you can. You go and get all that sort of stuff. But you can have all those things and still fuck it up.
Yeah.
Like real easy.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, one ingredient.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One thing that's out of whack and everything else. That's why for me, that blending skill is, I think, the most critical.
And the thing that I find fascinating with winemakers, because of that fact, if I do it in the kitchen, I'll mess up one dish or I'll mess up 5 liters of soup, where there's so much that goes wrong.
There's a million liters of Semillon that just got
fucking hell.
Yeah.
That's stress on another level, that is. So, yeah.
Yeah, you get another, I think, unlike the cooking thing where you've got time pressure, like we will spend a week, and there'll
Yeah.
be blend 1 and then there'll be blend 26. And
Yeah.
Annabelle, the other winemaker, because, I should say this isn't just me. It's I feel like I get a lot of kudos, but I've had a winemaker with me now for AH has been with me 15 years.
It's amazing.
So, and she's amazing. But we literally, we've realized lately we've had other new staff coming in and we realize we don't actually have to talk to each other to communicate.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah. Great for
right,
you guys. Great for you guys. Not so great for anyone else, though.
it's a little for some other people. but yeah, but that's where we will just keep tweaking and keep talking
Yeah.
and keep trying to find the blend that we have in our heads, I guess, that you want and what the vintage is trying to
Do you,
push you to.
do you ever go back through and look at all the portfolio of wines you've ever made and gone, all these years ago, I made this one, and you go, what was I thinking? Because I look back through recipe books and photos and I go, oh, I hope nobody ever sees
Ever
that.
made that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I look at
Yeah.
wines, and when we were talking last week, well, it's one of those things because that you could have a bottle of wine or a carton of wine that sits
Yeah.
in somebody's cellar for 30 years.
Mm.
So it's the legacy of that is much longer than one shit recipe coming out
Yeah.
of the kitchen, and they eat it and they go, fuck, it was a bad mistake, and move
Yeah.
on.
Start
Where-
again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
Is it
think so.
is it the
Yeah,
same? Is it the same for you? You've got those things where you sit back and you go, oh God.
and the fear of doing it again is probably what drives me to not. I've done it. I've bottled wines that I regret, and they're here forever, and they're here
Yeah.
a long time just to haunt you, and then it's
Yeah.
that, I think that's my worry. There was maybe a Semillon Blanc I had to make many years ago, which was just wrong, like wrong on all levels, and
Right.
I'm waiting for someone to pull that out of their cellar and say, "Oh, winemaker of the year, woohoo,"
Yeah.
If someone's aging Sam Sav from the Hunter, they can, that's on them.
Yeah.
No
I'm gonna
offense.
judge
Yeah.
them,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. Exactly. That is not on you at all. You've
No.
handed that over. The second it's bottled, that's got
Not
12
my
months to
problem,
be drunk.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think it is interesting, that idea that legacy's there. I remember speaking to Fiona Donald about this at Seppelsfield many years ago, and there's one wine that she makes every year that her great great grandchildren might see.
Yeah, crazy, isn't
The
it?
100-year-old at Seppelsfield is just the most ridiculous thing. And then she gets to finish off, maybe at her time there, she might finish maybe 2 or 3 winemakers' work,
Yeah,
because she's bottling the thing that's been sitting there in barrel for 100 years. It's like, what are we
crazy.
talking about?
That's just crazy,
It's
isn't
just, and that's the thing. There's something, and for me, it really clicked in, probably more so at Seppelsfield than anywhere else, because you're sitting in those rooms with those barrels, and you're walking through, and you can hear
Yeah.
the stories, and there's that, the things that have happened at that place, and that site, and what it did for the Australian wine industry. You sort of sit there, and it's like, that's so fucking cool
Yeah.
that you get to sit there, and like, her
Yeah.
job is to be the custodian of these wines for as long as she's there, and then get them to market, hopefully in the way that the person that started that wine 100 years ago intended. And it's like, did not talk about communication. It's pretty hard to communicate with someone that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Um,
I remember her, there was at the Hunter show, it was the same time, and she was talking, and I just remember sitting there, like, nearly fangirling, going, "Wow, you are just," but it was the level of respect that she talked about
mm,
of those wines and of the people and her.
yep.
And I love that word, like custodian. She never claimed, like she was just, it's just my job to guide these and have my little
Yeah.
tiny bit of period of time.
Exactly.
I was, yeah, I was quite blown away by that. I was like, wow, you're a, we always knew she was fab, but that was just
Yeah.
the way she articulated all of that. I was like, wow, you're quite amazing.
Isn't it amazing that I think the Australian wine industry is really flexing female winemakers as well. We had, we were so fortunate to have
Just winemakers.
Sarah Crow was up here for Yarra Yearing. We did a dinner, and again, such an amazing,
Incredible.
like crazy,
Another Brokenwood alumni.
and
Yeah.
how humble she is. Like when we had a table, there was a whole bunch of guys there, and we went around the table going, "What was your favorite wine? What's your favorite wine?" And all these guys going, "Oh, all these big reds, and I was so nervous to put my hand up and go Chardonnay, because I didn't realize that it was what initially made Yarra Yering famous.
Mm.
And she was like, "Oh, thank you," because it was funny, because when you said it was your favorite grape varietal is Chardonnay as well, I thought, oh, well, the Sarah was exactly the same, and it's amazing to see that coming through right now. And is there do you do anything in particular to aid and assist young girls trying to get into this industry, and have you thought about that? Because I think
Sure.
with what you've achieved, your legacy, you could do so many amazing things now to encourage,
Yeah.
young girls to come in and enter this this industry.
Because it is a great industry, and like I
Yeah,
say, it's not particularly family friendly, and that's probably why uh, First Creek, I fought really hard to have paid maternity leave. So when I first had my kids, we had a board of directors. They were just not very nice. Like, let's be honest. They didn't believe in intellectual property, even though I was,
What do you mean believe in it? It's so
just
ridiculous, isn't it? It's a thing.
come at it. It is so, and it's such a thing in the wine industry, and it's
Absolutely.
a business. And so that was a really, really tough period. And then when Annabelle went off to have kids, I was like, you can't have these educated women who earn good money then say to them, "Oh, okay, well, off you pop, thanks for your hard work. You go and live on the breadline."
yeah,
And make them rush back to work. I'm actually a great believer that if you let mums go and have their 12 months, 9 months, whatever they're comfortable with, but not to drag the baby into the winery, not to drag the baby, with them. I think there's that moment of saying, we should let mums have that period of time,
Be mums.
with their mums without being financially brought to their knees. Because you see a lot of young mums racing back to work because,
they have to.
financially
Yeah,
they have to. So we did this, yeah, we did paid maternity. We gave them, depending on how our business at the time was
yeah,
situated, it was either a lump sum or it was 50% of their salary up to 75% of their salary for our senior management in our business,
yeah.
because we have a great chairman now. His name's Bob Kennedy. He used to work for Mars. So he came from this enormous big business, and
Massive.
he
Yeah,
Mm.
realised that, like that intellectual property that these women hold. Like my point was, I didn't want Annabelle to not come back. I would have done anything for her. I reckon I counted the days that she was away. It's
Yeah.
yeah,
like, it was like my right arm was cut off. Like, we've
Yeah.
been together for so long, and so for her to be able to go and have her kids, be financially stable, and then be ready to come back, for me, is something I've tried to say more businesses should do it. I think, things are really tough in our industry at the moment, and in all, parts, but yeah, it's how much you value those women. Yeah, and to have them, so to have young women come in the industry, to say you can only have your job for a period of time, because then if you want to go off and get married or have
yeah.
children, um, yeah, I think if we want to keep really good women, I've just employed a really gorgeous young girl, Darcy. So she's the ducks out of Adelaide Uni.
Another one.
Another ducks.
Another ducks. I know. She's actually one of those ducks. Where they go, "Oh, you're really brainy, aren't you?"
Oh,
When they start talking, you're like, "Hey, she's way smarter than me."
that's good. They're the best ones you want. You want them working with
That's
you.
what I'm like. I'm like, "Oh, bring those brains. Come
Yeah,
on."
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I look at her, she's single at the moment, not married sort of thing, but I sort of hope that First Creek can be a place where people don't, um, they can sort of build a life, because I think long-term employees, I mean, we've got guys who have been there for 30, years, and
So
um,
good.
Wow.
it's really important.
Yeah.
That makes a family that you want to go into every day.
And I
Yeah,
think even with small businesses who might not have the ability to be able to do paid maternity for whatever length
yeah,
of time, I think it's just important that you try and think outside the box and go,
Yeah.
well, how can we support? Because it can be something as so small that can still aid and assist in them coming back.
Yeah.
Because we've got so many amazing girls, even at the top of our food chain in our businesses, and they are so critical to us. And we're always trying to adapt and try and think about different ways that we can keep or educate or, work with them. And if you can do that successfully, then you could potentially have them for life. You know what I mean?
That's what, and I guess that's how I look at it. And I think, uh, we want them to stay with us, like,
Yep.
and to be flexible too, like
Yep.
to have families in our industry is a pretty tough thing. Like we give
Yep.
up all our summers, being in the hunter, like, vintage starts in January. So
December some years. Well,
like those racehorses, they're not born before the 1st of August.
no,
They
definitely
really
not.
aren't.
It's all on that day.
Yeah.
It's amazing how that works.
Always. And yeah, so I think that's a really important, and that's, where I sort of, we're trying to be as, flexible and as supportive as you can. And in all families, I think these days, we need to see that in businesses.
I agree.
Agree, 100%. So, what's next then? What's next for the current reigning winemaker of the year?
Oh God, I don't know. I always say first
Sorry,
people is like a wave. You got to stay in front of it, or you get dumped
Yeah.
very badly. And I'd say right now I'm probably not in front of that wave.
Ah, yeah, I know that feeling.
Just like running like yeah. So the next part, just to see Silkman probably grow a bit would be lovely.
In volume or
Um, I think grow in the sense, no, volume wise, I think we'll probably, a lot of the vineyards we make from are set vineyards, and so it's a finite number that we can do. But you will have when I got the call from Halliday and they're like, oh, and by the way, Liz, you've won. And I should have been excited, but I literally just went off because we didn't have a website going. We'd let that get fall off the track.
oh, so
Uh,
someone's had a really busy couple of weeks.
Yep, Kylie White, I'm very huge Kylie
I
White.
do know Kylie, yes.
Okay, so she has made us look good.
White ink for those playing at home. If you need any kind of help in PR in the wine industry.
She knows us winemakers. She sent me this list and said, "Right, this is going to make. If I'm going to make this shit happen, this is all the things you need." And I'm like, "Oh, I love a list. Watch me go." Like and off I went. Sean pretty much did most of it. I just yeah.
But I think that's the thing with those, as I said, with those awards, that the pressure comes on for different reasons, and I think when you're sort of working out what to do next, do you stop? Have you stopped at all in the last week and gone, I'm doing okay, or is it? I mean, I know from my point of view, again, when I was had restaurants and we'd won an award. I remember one year we won best modern Australian restaurant in Australia in like 1946 or whatever it was, and I remember thinking for maybe half a minute, it's like, fuck yeah, we've nailed this. And then you get the next day, you go back into work and
Yeah.
that self-doubt comes in of
Mm.
like, was that a dream? Was it a fever dream? Are we actually that
Start
good?
questioning it. Yeah.
Right. And it's just like,
Yeah.
I think that,
Imposter
yeah, absolutely. And I
100%.
think that yeah,
I
it's
wonder
super
whether
common.
people like us do that, whether that's what
Yeah.
keeps us going, is that, yeah, like I probably have had a moment where I went, "Oh, shit. Okay, right." But then, yeah, you go to work and, the volumes didn't work out for your barrel and you're wondering what happened, and you've
Yeah.
got lab staff, saying the alcohols were wrong and you're like, "Okay, back to
Someone
reality."
calls in sick and then it's just like,
Oh,
here we go.
100%. Yeah, that's it. So,
It's so weird that that's what our personalities do, though. The second we get some kind of recognition or award or something like that, we go, well, it's not good enough
yep.
to an extent. I mean, I know certainly. I remember actually now that it's actually coming back to me. I remember sitting down with our team. I think the day or the day after we won this award, and it was like, we need to step up. Now's the time because everyone's going to be on us. Like we said earlier, it's just like, oh, you're winemaker of the year. It's just like for us, it was like the phone started ringing off the hook. We went from being booked out on Friday and Saturday to being booked out Tuesday to Saturday for months in advance, which is always nice from a business point of view. And I'm guessing you're going to see a bit of a spike in sales. Have you seen
I
that
think
yet?
Oh, probably we've seen little bits and pieces,
Yeah.
but, fingers crossed. But yeah, I think it is that you've the fear that now someone, and we do live in Australia with the old,
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
syndrome.
Yeah, that's probably a lot to do with it, actually.
Yeah, and I think that's always, it plays in the back of your mind.
But even the naysayers will never take that away from you. And I've always, and somebody very smart said to me once, nobody better than you has ever taken the piss out of you. It's always somebody looking up at you going, fuck, I wish I was there.
That's a
You
really
know, and if you think about that in its entirety, it makes you feel better because
Yeah.
no matter what happens between now and the next 30 years,
yeah.
this is your year and nobody will ever take that away from you.
Mm.
And I think that's a really cool thing to think about.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because restaurants, so people come in just to rip the piss because you won that award. And
Yeah.
there'll be somebody that'll open that bottle of wine and go, really? But so fucking what?
I think this is,
You know?
and this is the thing, the scary thing about the wine industry. And I mean, I don't really want to start talking about wine shows. I think that's a whole other
Yeah.
episode.
Restaurant critics are the same, but you know what I mean? Like, it's,
Yeah, I just think there's something about when we look at things, and it's not about looking at things critically, it's looking at them negatively. It's like we look at this and go, not this, obviously, because this is delicious, but we look at a bottle of wine, and in a wine show, we'll look at it and go, okay, this is 100 points. I'm going to start taking points off it.
Yeah.
Whereas I look at this and go, and 99% of people will look at a bottle of wine and go, this is delicious. How good is this? And it gets better and it gets better, and you have 4 or 5 bottles, and then everything's fucking rosy.
Yeah.
But we're looking at people, real people, look at it from this is positive, as opposed to when we're judging wine, we look at it negatively. We're starting at 100 and taking points off. I'd rather start at 0 and put points on. It's just a completely different framework of looking at it.
Yeah, but
I
I
feel
also,
that-
sorry, you go.
No, for me, judging, I say to my young crew, like when we do practice judging at work, is it's really easy to be negative. It's really, I can tear, you could give me the best one and I could,
Well,
have a go.
you did it to Le Monricher.
But
We'll hashtag them into this.
hashtag DRC.
At
then
DRC.
you just kind of, but I think it's I think if you can say a good thing about a wine, you have such a better palate. If you can find the positive and you can say, what I love about this wine is these things, because it's really easy to be negative.
Totally.
So
I say that about anyone selling wine in a restaurant, like someone's on the floor or staff that I'm talking to or training. It's just find one thing about each wine, just one thing that's positive. And again, it's also framing, like using words that are positive. Like we had a conversation with some team last week, and we were talking about different bits, and someone said, "Oh, it's acidic," and I said, "Let's not say acidic because it sounds negative. You know, if you say it's bracing acidity, you know." Same thing.
Put a seatbelt on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. But it's like, yeah, exactly. But I think it's one of those things where I think you're right. We do tend to frame things negatively, and I think it's also a skill for anyone who's selling wine. Is it's really easy to sell wines you like, but your job is to sell every wine in the bag or every wine in the book, whatever it may be. And I remember I was the worst when I was selling wine wholesale. I was never. There was certain wines. I don't think this brand exists anymore, but Four Sisters, I'm really sorry. I didn't sell any of you in the time that I had to. And actually, I probably did, but not a lot. And I think that's the thing. It's like find something, the wines that you don't like, it's like anything else in sales. If you know about them, knowledge is everything, right? So if you know something about the wine, even if you hate it, you've got to be able to talk to someone about it positively. And that's something that a lot of people don't learn because, again, we're looking at negative, negative, negative all the time. So I love that. Find something positive to say about this wine. It could be something like, I'm glad I never have to drink this wine again.
The thing that I find fascinating about the whole food and wine restaurant industry is from infancy, you get told it's rude to judge people, so don't judge people. And then you get into the wine game or the food game and you go, please judge me. And then
but then you don't want it when you
and if I say to you, please come in and tell me what you think of my restaurant and my food, and I give you oysters and you go, I fucking hate oysters.
Yeah.
Or I go, I've made this Semillon, and you go, I fucking hate Semillon. Like, it's exactly what you're saying now, right? You should be looking at the characteristics that make great Semillon. What part of this wine hits those briefs?
Yeah.
Not fuck, I hate Semillon. And I reckon there's a lot of douchebags out there who are in the restaurant.
Hospitality adjacent?
Yes. who do that. They just go in there and just try and find something to
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
carve you up with, instead of going, somebody's put their heart and soul into that. And is that a great representation of Semillon? You might not like oysters, but are they shucked here? Where are they from? Are they nice and cold? Are they
Yeah.
in good shape? Is it the right time of year? There's a whole raft of things. You don't have to be an oyster lover or a Semillon lover to pass
Yeah.
judgment on those particular products with. But it's really hard. And I would like to think that my career in chasing awards, I'm concentrating on making sure our restaurants are filled with people enjoying great food and drinking great wine and copious amounts of it.
Yeah.
And if the
Responsibly.
restaurants are if the restaurants are full, I've done my job.
Yeah.
But if a critic comes in and has a nice meal, and we had a lady who I know that you know intimately, Pete.
Well, let's not use that word.
Sorry, you know her well.
Okay.
She came in last weekend and
We
she
might
had a
have to
great
cut
time.
that
And
out.
it's like you know, I don't get
Stop
emotional.
laughing, you.
I don't think you shagged it.
We have to cut that out.
Don't do it.
So what does that? Did you shag?
That's
Well, I don't know who it
That's a
is.
sound grab.
I'm not going to answer. I don't know who it is. No, definitely not. I've only got one
Your
thumb.
halo,
I've only
your halo's slipping
only
out
done
your
it
hands.
once. Yeah.
But I find that fascinating because how do you like the wine game is so funny, and there's so many people. And I mean, I can't even imagine the types of people that you've served in your life, like wine and food together. So you must sit back and go, fucking hell,
Yeah.
really? But
But
if
they're customers.
yeah, and they enjoy it, fucking fill it up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. It's like,
Mine's the same in a way. I think that so many people, and I've been criticised by some other winemakers, oh, you make wine show wines. I'm like, well, I actually don't. I hate to tell you all, boys, I don't. I make
Yeah,
wines I like and I
yeah,
want to drink. And sometimes they jag a trophy,
yeah,
or they do well. And
that's pure jealousy coming out of a
yeah,
different state.
it is,
yeah,
it's the thing that they love to go, oh, you make them. It's like, no, I make wine that I want to drink.
yeah.
And so if you like it, great.
But
But
if you
ultimately,
don't,
don't. I'm not. It's like the other year at the Hunter Show, there's people's comments and they're like, we didn't get a gold or a trophy. And this one winemaker came up to me and goes, oh, so you're going to change your style? And I sort of went, no. And I was like, the derogatory,
no.
go away from
Yeah.
me. Like,
Yeah,
because
absolutely not.
why would I what do I drink? Not that I only drink our own wine, but why would I make something that I then ultimately go, "Oh, I don't like.
No,
I
yeah,
don't like."
exactly.
I
It's
think that's
fine. I
And that's
just
also why a lot of winemakers get into, I suppose, from big companies that go out on their own and start doing their own thing, so they can make wines
yeah.
not formulaic, like the
Yeah.
wines for them.
Food's exactly the same, mate. The amount of people
Absolutely.
that go to Rice Boy and go, "Well, that beef massamum's not traditional." It's like,
Okay.
Okay.
I know, and they go, "Oh, why didn't you make it traditional?" I'm like, I'm a
You want
round
it.
eye. I'm a round eye cooking Asian food.
Yeah.
I'm trying to appeal to a very broad market here,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and a lot of people find that offensive. They reckon that you should be cooking traditional Asian food. I'm like,
That's not the restaurant.
I'm here to make as many people happy as I can,
Yeah.
and that is Mitch, Eliza, and my interpretation of great beef massapum. It's not traditional.
Yeah. The other
And if you don't,
3,000 people that had it this week were okay with
if
it.
you
So
don't like it, then fucking order something
have
else.
something. Exactly. That's the thing. Have something else.
Don't
Because
have
And
it.
I'm so okay with that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not for everyone.
No.
Like that Semillon's not for everybody,
Absolutely.
or that Riesling's not for everyone. Yeah, but that's
But,
okay.
but when you're making something, and like whether it's a dish or
Yeah.
food, there's still like there's part of you you're in that in some way, shape, or form. So any of those kind of negative comments, there's always that little tiny little chink that it's just like in the armor. It's like that kind of hurts a little bit. Like I don't want this to be something that bothers me, but it kind of does a
Yeah.
little bit as well. And I
Because we
think
care.
that yeah, and
Yeah,
that's the
that's
thing.
it.
It's like I'd be more concerned if I didn't care.
Yeah.
And it's
That's
just
right.
like, I just don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like I've had an experience with that in the last few days.
Yeah.
With someone anyway, it doesn't matter where it was. It wasn't in hospitality. Well, it kind of is anyway, adjacent. But I said to someone, I was like, how's it all going? And their response was, I've just decided to not care. It's a lot easier. And I was like,
What a miserable fucking thing
I
to
don't
say.
get that. I just don't get that at
Yeah.
all.
Go and do something else.
It's like, and you're in a front facing role, like quite literally behind a counter.
That's
It's
terrible.
like, it's just,
How do you do that? Like if I didn't care, there's no way I would get up in the dark,
No.
yard, leave my kids,
Yeah.
juggle all of that. If you didn't care,
Life's
Yeah.
too short.
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
that's a
unless
tough
you're getting
Yeah.
paid $1 billion a year, which I know this person is not.
And I reckon that's still short lived as well, because you
Yeah.
can only be a miserable fuck for a certain amount of time before you just want to.
Yeah, and
Off
that's the thing.
yourself.
It just means that you're in
Yeah.
the wrong game,
Yeah.
or something's not
Or
okay
you're
with where you
burnt
are.
out, or
Exactly,
yeah.
and like I get it. Like for the person in particular, I'm not having a go at him at all. It's more like I get it based on his circumstances in
Yeah.
the business that he's in right now. He's kind of in the shit, so he's like, I just can't. I can't care about this.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a tough position to be in as
Yeah.
well. But again, when you're in a front facing role, I actually don't care about any of that. I
Yeah.
just want the service that I expect or whatever it may be. But
Yeah.
I'm actually now on like, I see this person on a regular basis and I'll be like, are you okay?
Yeah.
That's probably
That's
the next
probably
question that I
important.
need to have. It's not fuck you for not giving a shit.
Yeah.
It's like, what's going on in your life, mate? So, because there could be outside influences there that have got nothing to do
Maybe
with
give
work.
him
So
a hug first, Pete.
I probably won't give him a hug first. I'll definitely ask permission. It's generally a safer bet. I have to check my phone very, very quickly, but because I've got, hopefully, I do.
This is going to be good.
No, well, we started a new, what are they called? No. No, it wasn't Golf Fantasy League. Mind you, I'm keen if anyone's keen for next year. No, a new segment is the word last week, but it's called Question from Jen, which is my partner who's not in the industry whatsoever. So what I can't remember what she asked Adriana. It was something ridiculous. Oh, she's like, so we had Adriana Zumbo on a couple of weeks ago, and her question to him was like, what do you think about people that don't eat sugar? It was just
That's fabulous.
it was great.
But when are you producing zero alc Semillon?
Yeah, exactly.
It was probably
Ain't gonna
related.
go by.
Yeah, same kind of.
She is messaging me live saying I'm under too much pressure. I was like, no, we're doing it. I think that the one that she's upset though, because I didn't know we had Colin Fasnich on one of the first episodes, and I said to her, so this was in my brain from the start, and I completely forgot about it. But she wanted to ask Faz, because he's Irish, if he'd seen the Dingle Dolphin, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, she didn't understand that I didn't know what the Dingle Dolphin was. So there's this. It's not alive anymore, but there was a dolphin from Dingle in Ireland that was basically just like almost a pet. It would come up and see people and everything else, and apparently Dingle became quite famous for having this dolphin. Yeah. It's not a pickup line. God, that's probably a couple of wine shows in. You've seen the Dingle Dolphin. God, she's got to get it. Yeah, there's way too many sound bites, to be honest.
Dolphin.
I don't know if it's a good thing at all. Oh, gosh, we're gonna wait until this text message comes through. So once the sort of dust settles on the week and everything else, and you're straight back into it, obviously at work, because this time of the year is pretty busy, right? Are you still putting reds in bottle, and apart like your own, not about everyone else's, but
exactly all the other people's. Because for First Creek's also, we do contract winemaking, so we've got a lot of alternate reds are about to go to bottle. I did those today, and it's just that ticking of everything ticks along.
yeah.
So,
And then do you go to market?
I feel like maybe I got burnt out in my Tempest 2 days of
Right.
52 wine dinners a year. Was one of my KPIs when I worked for.
Actually, that was the number?
Yep.
Oh, God.
Yep. So I worked out, though, to be quick about it, is that if you just took 1 week and you did a lunch and dinner,
Ooh, nice. Bang.
Then you go to rehab for 2 months.
Yeah.
And then
do it again.
go back home, say good day to the kids.
Just do a month of that, and then oh, that's horrible.
Sounds like my December.
So I don't really. I go in every now and then, but probably need to do more of it with the trade. But the day job, which I call First Creek, is pretty big day job. So,
Yeah.
not a lot of time to, be on the road. I guess other winemakers, think about, say, like Stu from Broken Wood, they have their vintage, and then Stu is obviously expected then to go
Hit
and
the
do trade
hit the ground.
and to hit the ground. For us, because we make so many wines, there's really not a huge amount of time for me to do those. So we do a few of them, but not like, not the number that we used to, for
Yeah.
sure. Mm.
And I suppose that it's one of those things that people probably don't necessarily understand, that that's once wine's put to bed, winemakers or someone from the winery will generally hit the road with their agents if they've got agents, or on their own or whatever it may be,
That's right. Yep.
to show the wines. I mean, I know I've been seeing a lot of people in the last few weeks. It seems like the colder it gets in New South Wales and Victoria, all of a sudden,
Everyone's coming north.
Queensland.
yeah. Oh, I've got a trade visit in Noosa. It's like, do you? Yeah, okay. As far as the ATO is concerned, you've got a trade visit in Noosa. I understand that. So, but good on them, at the end of the day. But it's a pretty hectic time of the year. I mean, I've had to say no to a lot of people in the next couple of weeks. We've got a fair bit on, but I would have had probably 10 requests in the
Wow.
last week for people that are coming up at this time or in the next few weeks. And it's endless. And I think that you mentioned earlier that it is tough out there. And I think that's got a bit to do with it as well. People are probably dusting off the bags and like, you know what, we got to go.
Gotta go. We've got to, see what
Yeah.
we can get.
Drum
So,
up. Yeah, exactly. Which is, maybe a sign of the times that it's, that maybe relying on your distribution that you had is not enough. And it's like, what does that look like? I know speaking to someone else recently about the wine club, it's like, we've got to drive that wine club and, dinners, and there's always something happening. So you guys don't get a lot of downtime, really, do you?
no, not at all. Not like I think people think, like it's not the we, we crushed we made one Sem, one Chardonnay, one Shiraz, and then we're off to, go play golf. So yeah, no, it's pretty busy. It's never ending, to be honest. It's sort of that. Well, it will roll into Chardy time in, September, October. This year I think will be September by the look of them. Yeah, and then, the silly season starts, as they say. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, I got a question. The question's come through from Jen.
I'm quite frightened here.
No, don't be. It's actually pretty. It's a pretty tame one, this one, so it's good. There's no dolphins, so we're okay. The question is, if you weren't a winemaker,
Yes,
what would
right.
you be?
A vet.
Oh wow.
It's what I always,
Solid.
which I joke that I reckon you should ask all winemakers that question, because the last 3 I've asked have all said, "Oh, yeah, I was gonna be a vet, but I actually didn't get the marks to do veterinary." It's like, "I'm gonna be
You,
a
you
vet."
weren't you weren't the duxed.
No, I was not. No. My little duck, I think she was in medicine. She's super smart. So, yeah, would have been a
I
vet.
wonder why there's multiple people that say the same thing.
I don't know. I
Because they're
think
not even close
No.
to being similar.
ticks outdoors, we think, we get to be outside. We
Not
get to,
just not in an office.
yeah, not in an office. That
Yeah.
was, for me, I never wanted a purely office driven job.
How
I
much?
was
How
much
much in
more,
the office now?
oh my god.
Slightly ironic.
Ironic.
Yeah.
I get to run to the tasting bench,
Yeah.
um,
Oh, look, even Hunter winemakers take the piss out of Modelo. It's great.
considering I make most of it, I probably
I
should
was going
not.
to say, you love it. It's the greatest thing. It's like Rory loves it as well, and there's lots of people that love it.
We love Jay Tulloch.
Yeah.
If you wanted to have one wine for somebody to drink for you to show off with that you've made, and it was such a great representation of you as a winemaker, what wine would that be?
Oh,
Ooh, yeah, the 2017 Reserve Chardonnay.
yes, I
Yes,
agree.
think 17 AH and I say we sort of maybe had our shit together in 17, we were both back on the tools. And I look at our 17s as a bracket of wines, and I love them all. And sometimes I look at some 18s and 19s and I go, oh yeah, up and down. But yes, 17s.
Can you remember what made that such a cracker?
Uh, for me, it was a pretty easy vintage. Like, we didn't get the rain pressure that we had. Felt like the team was really good. The team
Yep.
was really strong at the time. And to me, that's the main thing. If the team's strong, I can get most fruit in the door, in some pleasing state, I guess. But yeah, it was about the team. I think AH and I, Annabelle we were on song. Sean was, in the winery more than he is now. And it was just the three of us.
Yep.
We nailed our 17s, and I look at them and super proud of them.
That reserve, that ruffled some feathers, that wine as well, from memory. It seriously did, though, because I remember in one particular show, it was up for a big gong, I think, if it's the one that I'm thinking of, and it was someone called it as being from another region.
They called it another wine.
They called it another wine, and it wasn't. And
DRC.
Christ, there wasn't. Well done, well done. Geez, that's not a bad compliment.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, depending on unless you're judging it, then you're like, this is shit. But I love that wine. It was a grenade. It blew people up. It really did, and it was so. It was like just popcorn in the background, just watching it happen, because it's like
we got to get some of that. And
some of these, I'm guessing there's not a lot of it around. I know I don't have any more, but
no, I don't have. I've got a little bit. We kept a little bit.
You know somebody?
Exactly. But it's certainly. I love those wines that people. I don't know. It's certainly. It was Hunter Chardonnay is one of those things where I think that it's always been there. It's always been good, but there's a couple every now and then that just go, whoa, bang. Yeah. And that was one where everyone was like, wait, what? It's from where? Because I think that there was a lot of people that thought it was from somewhere else. And yeah, I remember being at a show, and there was serious like almost like gasps when everyone found out what it was.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it was so awesome. And because I'm pretty sure if it's the show I'm thinking of, I wasn't judging, but I was there, and I could see, I knew what the wine was, and I was very, very happy because you were judging in that show as well.
And I didn't know. I was picking my own.
We're just hilarious because most winemakers can spot their own wine from 100 paces, and you're just like, this is yummy.
I would bag my own wine. I remember Sarah Kate years ago when I first started to judge. I was an associate, and she was she was a steward, and I was judging, and I bagged one of our wines. And so I got asked to speak, and I hated the idea of having to speak in front of, like Tomo and Richo and all these people. And I bagged our wine, and she walked behind me, and no one else. She goes, "And you're fired." And I was like, "Damn it, that's mine." So yeah, I'm really bad, like to the point it's a joke now, and I'll be like, well, if I didn't like it, it'd be mine.
It's probably mine. Yeah, exactly. But that's probably true, though. You're your harshest critic, right? And I think.
Totally. Yeah, I look at them and I go, oh, maybe this is, there, or it shouldn't be, or.
Yeah.
But, yeah, anyway. Oh, the joys of shows, though. Good fun.
Good story. There you go. Again, that's for another time. I think we might wrap it up there.
Great chat.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for your time. That's awesome.
No, it was awesome.
I'm sorry, some of the things.
No.
There'll be no editing. That's just going in completely raw.
Jen will ring me up and ask me the name of the food critic.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Who was it? I don't know what you're talking about. Didn't happen. Actually, we might need to cut that bit out anyway. That could be the sound grab. We might have to cut that out. We'll just said it 25 times in this episode. So
exactly. People go, what did they say?
Yeah, you never know. You'll never know. But thanks so much for coming on. So great to chat.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.
It was lovely. And hopefully the wine's finished.
TK's drained it. Yeah,
so good.
I mean, I had half a glass. It was great.
I'm grabbing the last bottle of that off the shelf and hunting down.
I'll race you to market to get some more. So, but thanks so much. Congratulations again on the recent results, and we look forward to tasting your wines for many, many years to come.
So, thanks, guys.
Thanks. Thank you. See ya.
Bye bye.
See ya.